Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode, we're going to say 84 of Muscle Asylum Radio and number 2 of our official Muscle Asylum TV. We're going to say 84 because I think we're going to scrap that last podcast, Jimmy, because you guys without me were rubbish. You were dog shit. I think you should agree with that. But we do have a special guest on for our second episode of Muscle Asylum TV, IFBB Pro Ben Pakulski. How are you?
Good, boys. How are you doing?
We're good. Now, you're all the way in Toronto. How's the weather over there at the moment?
Cold as fuck, to be honest.
Yeah.
We were just at a museum. My son loves dinosaurs, so I took him to a museum, and it's cold.
Yeah, I can just imagine. Yeah, so I'm just going to get the formalities out of the way and ask if you've had a good Christmas and New Year's.
Excellent, man. I've got 3 young kids, so you really get to experience the joy of Christmas again, right? As adults, typically we lose that, the Christmas spirit. We lose the bliss, but kids are awesome.
Yeah. No, that's good. You're on your way to Australia very, very soon to do one of your muscle camps. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going to be involved with your muscle camp? And you're going to be doing it alongside Jordan. Am I correct in saying that he'll be coming down with you?
So, and Jordan and I have become really good friends this year. Dr. Jordan Shallow, for anyone who doesn't know who he is, and he's a brilliant, brilliant guy. I mean, he's a world-class powerlifter. He's a world-class chiropractor, rehab specialist. Like, he's just one of the brightest humans I've ever met. And him and I have such amazing conversations about how we're going to build muscle and how we're going to get strong and how we're going to help people grow and how we're going to just kind of push the industry forward. That we're like, man, we just got to take this on the road, and we have to, take this information, these discussions to, as many different places as we can. And, we both have strong ties in Australia with really good friends, and just decided, why not? Let's do it in January. We have some people request us to come over, and so we decided just, come over to January. We're doing Sydney, Perth, and Melbourne right now. And the content for the course is literally, like I said, it's going to be everything you need to know to build your greatest body, man. He's a wizard when it comes to teaching how the body works and how to get really, really strong in a healthy way for your body. Most people approach fitness, particularly muscle building and strength, in a very mindless way, right? It's just about lift as heavy as you can, eat as much as you can, take as much gear as you can, and hopefully you get strong. But there's no intentional focus. There's no intentional action as far as taking an intelligent approach and actually knowing that you're going to make the progress you're looking for without injury, without setback. And that's really what we're both kind of great at. We've both carved niches for ourselves in, myself in muscle building and Jordan in strength and rehab. So, the kind of collaboration between those two worlds is where him and I are joining up to really take it around the world in the first half of 2019. So we're going to do Australia, South America, so a bunch of places like Brazil. Then we may do the Middle East and then Europe and Canada. So we're kind of taking it around the world.
Awesome. And what's the demographic you're trying to appeal to with these muscle camps? Is it open to anyone who is interested in training?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, man, the people I've had over 1,000 people to my camps now in the last 4 years. And, it's literally anyone who cares about their body enough to take an intelligent approach, So I say it's anyone from the highest level pro athletes who we get. I get the top pro bodybuilders in the world who I train now and consistently and consult for, and all the way up to, the most low level beginner, but ultimately people who are healthy and want to take it to the next level. We're not going to help people who are broken. We're not going to help people who are, not taking care of themselves. Well, we could, but you just end up spending so much time on some things that are really, really primitive, right? Really, really simple. To really get the most out of what we have to offer, it's people who are really looking to make the most of their time, making the most of their body, right? They're already working out every day. They're already eating really well. They know they're healthy. And the way I kind of picture it is this pyramid, right, where most of the people in the world live at the bottom of the pyramid. They're kind of suboptimal. They're below the optimal threshold. And then you're getting people, they're kind of below baseline. And then you get ideally most people live at baseline, and that's kind of where now we start to look at, okay, I'm at this baseline level, let's say even level with the ground, and then we have to optimize, and then we want to look for like, this optimization of performance. And then once you start to optimize performance, then and only then does the growth start to happen, right? So, if you're below baseline in your general health, you can't build muscle, you can't get stronger. So like a physiological impossibility. So, if you're already healthy, you're already, taking care of all those, checking all those boxes in your life with your sleep and your health and your supplements and your food, then you're ready to build some muscle. You're ready to lose some fat. You're ready to get strong. We're the people to come to.
Yeah, yeah.
So how will this camp differ from the ones you've had like in the past? Like, would you recommend those who have come and seen you before? Will they get much out of coming to this one?
It's completely different, man. So, since removing myself from bodybuilding, professional bodybuilding, I've really narrowed down my focus. My ability to deliver content is much better. My ability to articulate a message is much clearer, and there's so much more. And it's ultimately getting rid of the bullshit, right? Like, so many people are so misled when it comes to what it takes to build muscle. It's like, let's carve away the fat here and actually get down to what works. So, the basics of anatomy is foundational, and most people don't get that stuff. And if you think you get it, you don't get it. So there's that, and then there's getting into some necessities, what I call the 6 pillars of a lean and muscular physique. What everyone needs to have to build their muscle, to build their body.
Yeah, awesome. Let's talk a little bit about yourself and your history with bodybuilding. Why bodybuilding and Ben Pakulski? So what got you into the gym? What got you into the sport and eventually onto that pro stage?
Yeah, I get asked that question a lot. And for me, it was an interesting beginning. Like, I kind of started by accident. I stumbled upon bodybuilding by accident. I didn't like it. I picked up my first Flex magazine, and I thought it was disgusting, like most people do. I remember it was Nasser El Body, and I was like, God, I never want to look like that. But just kind of like many things, you start and you kind of get addicted, and I had a bit of an addictive personality. I was a bit of an extreme personality in my teenage years. And I just started to love it, man. And I started it because I wanted to be better at sports. And so I started doing it almost every day. And then I started doing it twice a day. And then I started putting on a bunch of muscle. And then I started reading the magazines. And it was just like this natural flow of obsession for me. I think after the first week of training, I was absolutely obsessed. And I just wanted to do it all the time, and literally would go before school. In high school, I'd go after school. Started missing football practice because I didn't want to miss the gym. And then it was just this natural progression to, trying to be this world-class bodybuilder. And for me, it was really because of all the things that I thought it was going to do for me, right? I thought it was going to make me confident. I thought it was going to make me more attractive to girls. I thought it was going to bring me, whatever, success and fame and whatever. And, I always tell this story that I got to the top of the world. I was obviously at one point top 10 bodybuilder in the world. And it did none of those things for me. It obviously brought me a great physique, but it didn't bring me confidence. It didn't bring me, security. It didn't bring me happiness. It just brought me a bunch of muscle, but you're still the same insecure person underneath. So, it really allowed me to step back and reflect and go, I don't get it. Why? And ultimately, the realization came that all the muscle in the world won't change who you are, but the process. Learning to embrace the process and embrace the struggles of everyday muscle building. That's where the true victory is, right? There's no point in being Mr. Olympia and stepping off stage and being the most insecure and lacking self-confidence that you've ever been. So that's ultimately how I got into bodybuilding, and I transcended this mountain of professional bodybuilding and got to the top, and realized that I love it, man. I still love it. It's still my favorite thing. But now I realize the journey for me is inside. It's within.
But that insecurity that you speak of, that's definitely something that I wouldn't have picked up, especially on you. You've done something which I have a lot of respect for in regards to the amount of significant amount of muscle and size you have lost since your competitive career. How did you do that without mentally screwing with your you know what I mean, like with your ego?
Sure.
Because
So
a lot of bodybuilders, they can't let go, and they'll just stay in the gym and they'll keep doing whatever
because
they're
they
doing.
have no identity, right? And I talked about that yesterday with somebody. Somebody asked me like, how do you feel when you look at bodybuilders now? And don't take this the wrong way anyway, but like I empathize with bodybuilders because I am one, and I'll always be one. And I realize most bodybuilders are just very insecure. So I almost feel sorry for a lot of people, right? Like they need that. When you need anything in your life, that's a problem for me. So most bodybuilders need to look that way, right? They chase, like, I have to be the biggest guy. I always have to look, because that's my identity. And when that's your identity, that's a really, really really empty place to be. It's a lonely place to be. So, I try to just talk to people and make them realize, like, man, no matter how big you get, it's never going to be enough. You're never going to feel like you're enough. So how about we change it and like embrace the day-to-day struggle and embrace the day-to-day, growth. But, for me specifically, man, giving people numbers, like I was as big as 321 pounds in the off season, and I was lean. I mean, I was, 321, I was probably certainly single digits. I competed as high as 283, 285. So, speaking kilos, you guys can do the conversion. I don't know. I was big.
Yeah,
and,
about 125, 130 kilos. Yeah, not small.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was big, and again, like I said, I never thought I was big enough. I never thought I was good enough. There's always the next level, and so what I did is I just decided at the end that I knew that I kind of realized in probably 2012 or 13 that it wasn't the journey to get big that was going to fulfill me, because I was fucking huge. I was the biggest guy in the world. I mean, I made the top bodybuilders. Like, there's pictures of me in 2011 making the top guys in the world look small. And so I realized, like, okay, you're never going to be small. It's not about getting bigger. It's about getting better. And then, realizing that you keep getting better and keep getting better, and you're just never going to be happy. So I just decided to do 5 shows in 2016. I did five or six shows, and just laid it on the line, man. I was like, you know what? I'm going to get it all out. I'm going to do the Olympia again. I'm going to do the Arnold. I did the Arnold 7 times in total. Did a bunch of shows, won my first pro show, and just kind of got everything done that I need to get done. I was comfortable walking away, and then realized that, man, like, I don't know how big you guys are now as far as your weight, but like, you can't walk around at 300 pounds forever. Like, you'll die. Your heart just can't take it, man. Like, I have a relatively small structure, so like, I have to start unwinding this shit, or I'm gonna die, man. I got 3 kids. I have a great family. I have a great business. Like, I love my life. So I can't be this big forever, because, like, you guys know in professional bodybuilding, there's a lot of guys just kind of dying and just kicking out. And I was like, man, I don't want to be that. So, and my health is great. Like, don't get me wrong. I've always been very health conscious. My blood work is perfect, but no one at 320 pounds is healthy. So that's
what are you weigh now?
I was down to about 255. So that's down, 60 pounds from my peak, or almost 70 pounds from my peak. But I'm probably 270 right now. I went back up a little bit. I started training a little bit harder again. So, I think the weight loss is going to be this ebb and flow, right? It's going to be this up and down, because, like, I was getting small and my scale weight was going down, but then your body composition starts going to shit. So I started training again to bring the body composition back, and the weight goes back up. Within 3 weeks, I was back up to 280. And then it's coming back down again now. So I think it's, for the next 5 years, it's going to be this kind of ebb and flow. Because, I don't want to be skinny. Like, I don't want to have no muscle. I don't want to be skinny and fat. I want to look great. Yeah, you're
still a big dude. I think I never said hello or anything, but I saw you hopping on a plane. I can't remember what airport we were at, but I think it was after the Olympia, not last year, the year before. And it was after you downsized, and you were still the biggest dude there in the airport. You know what I mean? So you're still considerably big. I'm not trying to like give you a compliment, or I'm just letting you know you were a big dude still. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for sure.
But the thing is, with downsizing, were there other contributing factors that helped you come to your decision, or is basically completely your own choice to do it and focus on your health?
Well, there's a lot of things that came to it, man. I'll speak very transparently with you guys. Like, I had my daughter. My son was born 2012. My daughter was born 2013. At that point, I couldn't be the same selfish, ruthless man that I had to be the best in the world. Like, I was very focused on being Mr. Olympia, man. If you would have talked to me in 2011, 2012, there was absolutely nothing that was going to stand in my way. Like I would have done whatever it took to be Mr. Olympia, and I would have accomplished it, man. Like I'm a goal crusher, and it's always been my thing. And it sounds arrogant, but I would have figured out a way. And as soon as I had my kids, it changed. Like it was like I just can't be the same person. I lost my purpose. I can't go to the gym and be a ruthless, maniac, basically a ruthless machine, and go home and be this loving, caring dad to these beautiful little angels. So that shifted me. That was a big shift for me. A couple of my good friends dying in bodybuilding was a big shift for me. And, one more thing, being transparent with people, like the inability to access gear in the US, and like, it's just going to shit. Like the whole underground, everything coming from China. Like I was like, you know what? I don't ever want to put that stuff in my body. So it ended up being, I'm just taking what my doctor's giving me, which is a couple 100 milligrams of testosterone a week. And that wasn't enough to be the best in the world. And I wasn't about to put the stuff in my body that I needed to from China. So I was like, you know what? All these things just accumulating to this realization that I just shouldn't do this anymore.
Yeah. So you mentioned that, and steroid technically isn't an addictive drug, but it can be addictive in the mental sense. You know what I mean? Like when someone develops, psychologically, when someone develops that enhanced type of physique, they construct an identity that they're recognized by. So you're always a big guy that walks into the gym or the restaurant or wherever it is that you're walking into,
right? And
in a sense, they have to maintain their identity to feel significant. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, think about this though, right? Like, I fucking hated it, to be honest. I fucking hated it because I wasn't just like a big guy. I was the biggest guy, right? Like anywhere I went, I was the biggest guy, and I got all the attention. And that sounds, again, arrogant, but like I hated it, man. I wore fucking sweatshirts everywhere I went. I hated it because everyone wants to talk to you. Like you don't get 5 minutes to yourself. And I'm very introverted, right? I'm very, keep to myself kind of private guy. And I love talking to people. Like I love talking to my fans and my tribe, but at the same time, like you don't go anywhere without people like asking how much you bench and how big your arms are and how much you eat and all these other questions. And I hated it, man. Like even from the time I was young, I never liked it. So it's interesting that I chose bodybuilding for different reasons, right? I didn't do it because of insecurity. I didn't do it because of the vanity. Ultimately, I did it because I just love to train. I love the process. But yeah, it was a different perspective for me. So I definitely. That leaving that identity behind was a bonus for me.
Yeah. But you're still obviously rocking up to expos and bodybuilding competitions and still being respected in the same manner that you used to back in the day. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, because, the thing that made me okay with letting it go was that, I was at the Arnold in 2017. So right after I was still kind of not retired, 2017. So like almost 2 years ago now. And I had, 500 people in line to see me, to take autographs, et cetera. And, maybe 3 of the 500 said, Ben, you're my favorite. Well, maybe like 10 said, you're my favorite bodybuilder. Everyone else goes, man, you changed my life. And, with how you taught me to train, with how you taught me to think and how you taught me to eat and just healthy bodybuilding principles, how to do this in a way that you're going to live a long time, that you can build a tremendous amount of muscle, not destroy your joints, not destroy your body. So for me, that was kind of another sign that it was like, okay, you can walk away from this. You don't have to be this 300-pound monster for people to respect you or give you the notoriety and the attention you want or deserve.
How quickly do you think your body could rebound if you wanted to get back to that size? Like, are you someone who puts on a tremendous amount of muscle very easily?
It would take me a while, man. Like I'm substantially smaller than I was at my biggest. My legs are down almost 4 or 5 inches. My arms are down like almost 1.5 to 2 inches. My back and chest is down a lot. So I'd probably be looking at a good 18 to 24 months before I was able to go back. I'm doing some stuff to intentionally lose muscle, right? And people want to kick me in the nuts when they hear me say that, but like I'm intentionally fasting. I'm intentionally having low protein days. I'm intentionally just eating a lot less because like I want to lose scale weight, not just fat. I want to lose scale weight. So I mean, I've lost quite a bit of muscle, man.
When you talk about how much food you're eating now in comparison, what can you give us a little bit of an idea of what you were eating then in comparison to what your daily intake of nutrition would be now?
Sure. I was always a pretty high protein guy. Like I'd consume, speak in Australian terms, 300 to 400 grams a meal would be average, and I would be doing that 6 to 7 times a day, plus having a shake and whatever. So, I was probably in the range of 400, 450 grams of protein every day. Carbs were often very high in the off season, 600, 700 grams of carbs a day. Typically, my fat was relatively low in the off season. So, but I tried to consume, I would never take in less than 5,000 calories a day on a training or a non-training day. And if it was a high training day, I add an extra 300 to 400 grams of carbs. So, range of 5,500 calories a day. Whereas now, I mean, rather than eating 6 or 7 meals a day, I'm having 2 typically, sometimes 3. Usually it's 2 meals, no shakes or anything like that. Supplements are kind of minimal. Supplements are more health focused now rather than muscle building focused. So now I consume maybe, average day, I'd say 2,000, 2,200 calories. Sometimes I get up to 3,000 if I'm having a good hard training day.
So if you were prescribing a meal plan for someone who wanted to maintain general health, you wouldn't be opposed to just giving them 2 or 3 meals a day, and as long as they're consuming the amount of calories they need within those 2 or 3 meals?
Well, it's an individual thing, right? So I'm obviously a special case where I don't care if I go 8 hours between meals because I don't care if I lose muscle. Ultimately, I've still got 250 pounds of muscle in my body, or maybe not that much, but pretty close. So I'm a bit of a special case, and it's a very person-to-person thing, I find. So, like, if I told you guys to fast, could you? Like, some people, it depends how fat adapted you are. If your body uses fat as fuel really, really, really well, you can go much longer between meals, right? So if you're used to eating fat or having a high-fat diet, you can go a long time between meals, not break down any muscle, and not feel shitty mentally. Whereas someone who's used to eating every 2 to 3 hours, you put them on, 3 meals a day, they're going to be mental and their cortisol is going to be up and they're going to be hungry all the time. It's a very hard challenge for them. So there's a lot of levels to who and what and how we approach a nutrition plan. But for most people, healthy, quote, people aiming for health, 3 meals is absolutely adequate, I believe. Decrease the size of the feeding window. So we go from eating for 12 hours a day to maybe eating for 8 or 10. Decrease the feeding window and just get those 3 meals in that smaller feeding window.
You've mentioned fasting a few times now. How important do you think it is to the body for an everyday individual and an athlete to fast?
Again, very dependent on your health. If you're someone who is stressed, fasting is a very bad idea. If you're someone who is not fat adapted, fasting can be very, very stressful. So, if you're in good health, fasting is very, very good for you. If you're someone who's just not healthy in general, fasting can make it much worse. So it's, again, a case-by-case scenario. But I think fasting should be something that most people aim to do. Even looking back, if I was still a competitive bodybuilder, I would still do time-restricted feeding at least 1 to 2 days a week. And I just noticed such a tremendous benefit for improving nutrient absorption. So ultimately, as a bodybuilder, this is a paradigm bodybuilders make a mistake on, right? The goal is not to consume more, right? The goal is to use more, to utilize more. So most people get in this phase of consumption, like I need to eat more calories. No, you don't. You need to make sure your body's using more calories, and there's a big dichotomy there, right? And everyone thinks it's a numbers game, and I'm completely anti-numbers. Like, if I could grow on, or anyone can grow on 3,000 calories, you should always choose to go on 3,000 calories rather than 5,000, because there's a lot of negative effects to over-consuming calories. So objectively, as a bodybuilder, you should be aiming to eat as little as possible and grow as much as possible. And the same with your training, right? The goal shouldn't be to train as much as possible or as hard as possible. It's fucking stupid. The goal should be to train as little as possible and grow as much as possible, right? You're trying to subject your body to the least amount. So just thinking your way kind of backwards through that is, as a professional bodybuilder, I still advocate a couple guys who I train at least 1 day of decreased protein intake.
Okay, easy. And when you're talking about a fast, how long are we generally talking? I know you say it's an individual basis, but if you're going to give a guideline of how long someone should fast for, once or twice a week. How long would that be?
It may just be as simple. Again, very individual thing, but like it may just be as simple as like have your last meal at 7 p.m. and then don't eat the next day until 11 or 12. And so it's not a huge fast, but it's just allowing your digestive tract a little bit of a break, right? Increase your water intake during that period, increase your electrolyte intake during that period. It's a really healthy thing for your digestive tract. Like we're not meant to consume food incessantly like we do as bodybuilders. You know, that's why we all have digestive issues, and myself included. When I was competing, man, I was so incessantly consumed with, getting in all this food that digestive issues, bloating, distension, all these things happen because, like, if you're 320 pounds, that much food in and of itself it's going to disrupt your digestive tract, right? Like, and especially because, like, you're always eating, even when you're stressed, you're eating. You're not digesting your food. You're putting more food on top of it. Your stomach just grows, and then you lose control of the diaphragm, lose control of the transverse abdominis. Things that actually hold your insides in. And you can't control it. So that's why the distended bellies are such a big thing these days. Like, I don't think it's a drug thing for the most part. It could be for some people, but I think it's an overeating thing.
It was a good segue to actually my next question when you bring up distended bellies. You made a comeback in your bodybuilding career in 2016. You won the Toronto Pro Show. Sorry, you didn't win that pro. You placed fourth at the Toronto Pro Show from memory, and then
I did, and I won
and then
Vancouver.
a month later you won Vancouver. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I remember from those shows is that you lost a significant amount of size from your waist.
Like 4.5 inches from my waist, man. And they're just paying attention to it, right? Everybody goes, "What'd you do?" I just fucking paid attention to it. Like when you're trying to be the biggest guy on stage, you're eating every 2 to 3 hours. You're eating, 300, 350, 400 grams of protein every meal. Ultimately. Your stomach's going to be bloated. So I just paid attention, man. Like I was taking digestive enzymes with every meal. I was doing vacuums every day. I was training my abs every day. It was just control. I didn't do anything differently,
So it wasn't any waist trainer that everyone's adopting these days. Everyone's trying to use with these waist trainers.
No, I think that's just fucking stupidity, right? Everyone wants the easy way. Well, how about waking up every morning and before you eat, doing 10 minutes of posing and 10 minutes of vacuums, right? Like, how about doing some work and then realizing that's what's going to make you a better person rather than slapping on a waist trainer or you're taking an extra pill or something that's going to make me better. Fuck, do the work, man.
Yeah.
Like that's the laziness of our sport's fucking pathetic right now, to be honest. I think it's sad, and I think the amateurs are sad, and like everybody's just lazy, man. Nobody wants to train. I ask people to train with me now, and they're afraid to train with me now. I'm fucking 2 years since retired. People don't want to train. Like, it's a sad state right now. Everyone wants to do physique because they don't have to train legs. Like, everyone wants to take more drugs because they don't want to train. It's a sad state, man. And I hope I know it will. Everything goes in cycles. It'll come back around. Like the reason bodybuilding was great in the 70s, 80s, and 90s is because it was a training-centric culture. Like, guys fucking trained. They loved to train. They trained 2 hours a day, twice a day. Now it's a drug-centric culture, right? Everyone goes, well, what do I have to take to get as big as you? You fucking take your ass to the gym twice a day like I did for 3 hours each time, How about that?
That's a general go-to question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that, actually. That was one of my questions for later on, but the difference between the culture back then and the culture now. How much of an effect do you think social media has had on the fitness industry now, and whether or not you see it as entirely a negative effect, or there are some positives to the influences on social media?
Everything in life has positives and negatives. Sometimes your greatest blessing is also your biggest curse, and social media is amazing. I mean, it helps people make money, it helps businesses grow, it helps drive economy. It's great, but ultimately it's absolutely killing physiques. It's people are on their phone. Like, dude, if you ask me how many times I had a phone in my hand when I was competing or when I was coming up, fucking zero. Like, I'd slap myself in the head if I brought my phone in the gym, but everyone's got to take a selfie. They got to make sure they're in shape all year round. Otherwise someone's going to take a picture of them. Like, it's a completely different culture. And I think it's really going to hurt professional bodybuilding. There's going to be a couple guys who genetically can just do whatever the hell they need to and they still get big, but it's really going to decrease the talent pool of the guys who are up and coming, because to get there, man, like, people don't realize to become a professional bodybuilder, minimum is 10 years, 10 years of like grinding every single day in the gym, not missing a meal, not missing a workout, people don't want to do that anymore, man. They want to get like people first year of training. They want, how do I get a sponsorship? How do how do I compete? We'll go do men's physique, whatever it is. Nothing against men's physique, but it's the short route. Everybody's after the quick fix rather than the long haul, and it's hurting our sport, no question, man. You can see it, right? There's so few guys who are actually successful, and the only guys who succeed are the incredibly genetically blessed. There's nobody that can grind it through.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on classic physique, the new category? So we're not talking about normal physique. We're talking about not board shorts, but short shorts, classic physique.
I think it's great, man. I think there's always going to be guys who don't have the genetics to compete with the big guys. I think it's great. Again, is it going to take away guys from the big bodybuilding? For sure it is. But at the end of the day, the IFBB doesn't care, man. It's a business, right? They still have the same number of people, if not more, in the ranks. But they don't care if the top of it dies. And I think it's a mistake, because ultimately nobody goes to a bodybuilding show to watch classic physique. They go to watch the freaks. And you need to push more people into looking like that, to being a world-class bodybuilder. Unfortunately, that our sport, I don't think it's dying, but it's certainly going through one of its low phases.
Yeah. I've watched a few of your other videos and other podcasts and so forth, and you do talk heavily about the drug use now in bodybuilding in comparison to back in the day. I know I'm noticing a trend now here in Australia, and I'm not sure whether or not it's the same overseas, but there's basically no off phase for bodybuilders a lot these days, and their off phase is a low hormone replacement therapy type dose rather than coming off completely. What are your thoughts on that? And are you an advocate in thinking that people should have phases where they're entirely off any type of enhancements, or do you think maintaining an enhanced type of dose at a low dosage is important in between your high courses?
Yeah. So, again, everyone thinks this is, I'm a guy who's going to be very honest about stuff. Like,
this is what we want.
I came off. Yeah, man, I came off for 3 months after every single contest, which is why I got smaller. I got fatter. Like, these things happen. You train a little less. I still trained hard, but you train a little less, your recovery's a little less, you're eating a little less. You're not going to look the same. But when it came down to contest, I knew I had what it took to pull that back out, work on it, put in the work that was necessary to actually come in shape for the contest. And it allowed me to leave bodybuilding with children, allowed me to leave bodybuilding with health, and still feeling amazing. My kidneys function great, my liver function great, my heart functions great. Like, after effectively almost 20 years of 15 years of bodybuilding, maybe a little longer, I still have great health. And that's a thought, right? Like, people don't want to think about tomorrow. And, had I done 15 years straight of gear, I know that I would be much less healthy. And there's a lot of guys doing it. And there's always levels, right? There's guys out there like Dexter. He's so blessed. Like, he hasn't been doing gear for 20 straight years, probably 30 straight years. But he's on and off, and his dosages are so much smaller than people think, because he doesn't need to take big dosages. He's a small guy. His body responds well to low dosages. He doesn't need a lot. So if you're a guy who's 300 pounds, 310, 320 pounds, you have to have those dosages to be able to or quote unquote have to have those dosages to compete. Well, you're going to have a shorter lifespan, man. You're going to die faster. So people got to think about that shit, man. Anyways, to answer your question a little more specifically, I think everyone should be coming off at least once a year, man. Like, if you're really pushing the levels of being a professional athlete now, I'm not talking about amateurs. Like, amateurs should be off 2 and 3 times a year. If you're a pro, at least once, right? This is why a lot of the top guys are only doing the Olympia. It allows them to come off for 3 months after Olympia and get back on to, for 6 months prior to the contest. So, and if you're an amateur and you can't come off, you don't stand a chance of ever becoming a successful pro. Dude, I won my pro card on 1 bottle of Winstrol. Like, people think I'm full of shit, but had I done stuff before that? Yeah, but for my contest prep, it was so minimal. Not just because I was genetically, or worked my dick off, and I was genetically advantaged, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of people think now also that to advance from an amateur to a pro and become a competitive pro, the use of things along GH, insulin, all of those types of things are basically a must, and they're pretty much the holy grail when it comes to putting on size and taking yourself to that next level. How important do you think those types of substances are, and whether or not they have a positive effect on muscle growth as people will interpret them to?
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt that I'd say most guys are using it at some level, right? I don't think it's going to be that much of a difference maker. So again, it's the drug-centric culture versus the training-centric culture. And if you're someone who is training-centric and you're working hard every day, like actually working hard and actually giving it your all, then maybe you can benefit from the recovery potential of taking insulin, right? Maybe. And I've met maybe 5 people in my life who have actually trained hard enough to use insulin. Like, so few guys think they train hard. Like, you guys get this, man. Like, so many people are like, yeah, I train hard. Like, no, you didn't. Compared to what, right? Compared to who? And unless you're training really, really hard, are you actually depleting your muscle glycogen enough to warrant insulin use? I would say, like I said, 5 people in my life have I met who've actually benefited from insulin.
Who are that? Just a quick segue. Who are the hardest people that that train real hard? I'm not saying they use insulin or not, but you would have trained with a lot of people. Who are some of the hardest trainers?
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I've trained with most guys, and Rolly Winkler was the most surprising with his tremendous ability. So I was always known as the guy who I could out-train anybody because my endurance was fantastic. So I wasn't always the strongest, but for a guy who walked around at 310, 320, I was pretty strong. And my endurance was crazy. Like, I could, ultimately run a marathon at 310 pounds. So that gave me a distinct advantage over anybody that came in the gym because I trained really fast. I would do 2 sets to every one that someone else was doing, and they'd be laying on the ground, and I'd be fucking smiling over top, right? So that gave me a distinct advantage. So the guy who surprised me most for sure was Rolly Winkler. Rolly's strength was out of this world, and his endurance was actually surprisingly exceptional. He's a guy who was great. Depending how you kind of gauge hard training guys, like you could make an argument for a guy like Jordan Peters being a hard training guy, but it's just strength. Like, his strength is fucking tremendous, but he does 1 set every 10 minutes. Is that a hard training athlete? Yes. Like, his ability to put work into 1 set is tremendous. But if we ever had to challenge him to do more density, he wouldn't be able to do it. So it depends how you define, hard working athletes. Kai Green works hard, but again, he's very kind of sporadic. He's kind of all over the place. Kai works very hard. And that's kind of it, that people that come to mind, man. Like, those are the top for sure. And again, there's probably guys who are not high level pros who train hard, but other than that, those are my guys. I mean, Jay trained very hard during his career. Jay was a machine. A guy who I saw train really, really hard was Gary Stridham. I don't know if you guys even remember Gary Stridham, but the guy was 50 years old when I met him, and he fucking destroyed anybody. Michael Hearn trains hard, but yeah, I mean, there's not enough guys for sure.
Have you?
Sorry. The one guy I got to mention who trains harder than anybody is Milo Sarchev. That guy's out of his mind.
Well, when you were talking insulin use and who deserves to use insulin, I was wondering whether or not Milos' name was.
He's the only guy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. The way when you train like Milos, you need insulin, right? Like, he's the only guy that warrants that shit. He's fucking crazy the way he trains, which is great. Like, I mean, is it necessary all the time? No, but he kills it, man. Still to this day, nobody trains like that.
Yeah. You've mentioned that you've retired from bodybuilding, but you've never actually ever made an official statement that you have officially retired from bodybuilding. Is that you leaving the door open to the possibility that you possibly could come back one day, or have you just too far gone now? Yeah.
I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
But I love my life, man. I have a whole new chapter, getting into business now more than anything. I love my life, man. I love the fact that I can influence awesome people. I love the fact that I have the ability to have great conversations with really smart people about pushing the levels of performance in the world. It's not just in bodybuilding, it's in any sport now. That's a pretty cool opportunity, man. And I love that so much. Like, I can be a coach. I coach a lot of young aspiring athletes now, and I'm not coming back, man. I don't have it in me anymore, man. Like when I was a bodybuilder, I was full of piss and vinegar, man. Like I was pissed off. I wanted to get after it every day. I was angry. I have none of that left, man. That stuff is and obviously I've dealt with that stuff, on many levels, but I don't have it in me anymore, man.
Yeah, yeah. Are you still as much a fanboy of the sport as you were back in the day? Like, do you still go watch all the Olympias and the Arnold Classics? Because you were known for your Arnold Classics. You were the guy that was the guy for all the Arnold Classics around the world. But is it are you still as much a fanboy, or are you kind of taking a step back now?
Man, I love the sport. Like I love bodybuilding for what it is, and I hope to become an advocate for teaching people that bodybuilding is not about the muscle, man. Like as much as we all love the muscle, it's fucking bullshit, man. It's about the day-to-day grind, the day-to-day discipline to make yourself a better man. That's what I love, man. That's what to me was that's what changed who I am. It was falling in love with the process, falling in love with the challenge every single day. Like how hard can I push myself today? Can I get out of bed? Can I do the things I need to do to get on stage, even when I don't want to do it? That's what really changed me as a person, rather than what I call the pageant now, right? Like going on stage and dancing around in your underwear. Like that's a fucking pageant. At the end of the day, that's not the contest. The contest is like every day in the gym. So I try to become an advocate for that. So like I say, I love the sport. I don't fanboy about the athletes or anything like that. And I never did really. I just love the idea of being big and muscular because you fucking worked your ass off.
Yeah, yeah. You say you're not a fanboy, but you obviously follow the sport and you know who your favourites are in regards to up-and-comers of the sport. Firstly, what was your thoughts on Shawn Rhoden winning this year's Olympia, and where do you think it can go from there?
I'm happy Shawn won, man. I think Shawn's a nice guy, and it's nice to change it up, right? Phil was clearly off, and Shawn was just the next guy waiting to step up, man. So I'm really glad Shawn was able to do that. And who knows where he's going to go from here, man? Like, hopefully he's still training hard. Hopefully he can keep everything in check and continue to grow the sport, man. We just need a good brand advocate or a good sport advocate for the sport, and hopefully he can be the guy.
Awesome. Okay. We've never done this with anyone before, but I'm going to do it with you because I think that you can pull it off, and I think you have the intelligence to be able to answer these questions appropriately with some good information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw 10 random topics, and you can talk about them for as long as you need to talk about them. You can make it brief, or you can expand on them if you like. But just basically 10 random topics, not necessarily questions. And I just want you to discuss your thoughts on each one, if that's all right with you. All right.
Sure.
First one, number one. Exercises don't determine adaptation. It's the application of the exercise that determines everything.
Of course. Everyone looks at an exercise and assumes that, it's an example being, if I say the word bench press, everyone goes chest. And I say bullshit, because a bench press is not necessarily for your chest. There's definitively a way you can train a bench press and not stimulate your chest at all. So it's not about the exercise that determines the adaptation. It's the application of it, like you said. It's how you do it, not what you do. And then how often are we going to be subjecting your body to this stimulus to incur response, ultimately. So the way I teach exercise is muscle-centric. And I say that a lot, but muscle-centric exercise is like, forget about the exercise, man. The exercise is bullshit. What matters is, am I challenging this muscle? So no matter what exercise I'm trying to complete, my question always needs to be, am I completing the job of challenging this muscle? So if I'm trying to train my chest, I don't care what the exercise looks like. I don't care what the name of the exercise is. All I care is, am I accomplishing the goal of challenging the muscle? So for everyone listening, like, back yourself into, forget about the name of the exercise. Forget about anything. Just go, what am I trying to accomplish? And does this exercise do that in the most direct way possible? So, how do I directly apply resistance to this exercise that I'm trying to complete? To this muscle that I'm trying to contract. That's it. So if I look at a pec has two ends. Every muscle has two ends. One end remains stable as the other end moves. And how do I apply force or resistance against that? So, reversing your way into the reality that an exercise can't cause an adaptation, right? It's not about that. It has to be the way you apply it, and even before how you apply it, is it the right type of stimulus?
Yeah, that's a good answer, and I'm pretty sure that you probably go over that type of theory in your upcoming muscle camps also, and expand on that. Yeah. Okay.
And so the muscle camps are very much guided around who shows up. So, like, I have a very open agenda, like a wide open agenda with, depending on the level of knowledge, the level of understanding of the content will determine, of the participant, will determine the direction of the content, right? So if we get a bunch of beginners that show up, I can't go into comple stuff because they don't get it. So it's not canned, to make it simple. My content of the course is completely guided by who shows up. If there's people in the course who are very high level, who are looking for the higher level stuff, then we dive into it. If there's people who are just not getting it, and I have to slow down and just talk about really basic shit, then that's where it's going to go. And so this is why I try to kind of pre-qualify everyone who comes to the camp and let them know, like, hey man, this is for anybody, but at very least make sure you're healthy and you're able to do these things, because I can teach anyone how to train in a very short amount of time. But not if you're broken, right? Not if, like, your body can't recover. Not if you're asking questions about, like, hey, man, should I be eating protein for breakfast?
Yeah. Okay. Next question. Number 2 was, the topic was intermittent fasting, but we won't talk about that because we were told. So I'm going to change that one to counting your macros.
Does it matter? Yes. Should you do it? Yes. Is it the holy grail like some of these monkeys think it is? Absolutely not, because it's not that black and white. Like, it's not that simple. So all these scientific zealots, quote unquote, are not correct when they say it's just about your macros. It's fucking not. It can't be, because if you eat a banana and I eat a banana, it's not doing the same thing in our body. And you have to realize that there's so many things that play into what my body does with the nutrients I eat. And there's been some recent research coming out showing a greater metabolic effect from lower carbohydrate diets. Like, there's a whole bunch of conflicting data out there. Ultimately, you realize you can find data for whatever the hell you want. But, I really believe that, there's the microbiome, there's digestion, there's autonomic nervous system, there's hormones, there's inflammation, there's insulin resistance, there's vitamin deficiencies. So many things play into how my body utilizes the nutrients I eat. So it's not about what I eat, it's what my body does with what I eat that truly matters. And that's a big missing link for people. It's like, optimize your health so that when you eat a banana does what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to go into your muscles, right? Rather than being stored as fat because you're insulin resistant from high cortisol, or maybe it's causing inflammatory reactions in your gut because you have leaky gut and you have a poor microbiome. Like, there's so many things that could go awry in the middle of that ingestion to absorption process.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that, if it fits your macros, obviously, is the trend here in Australia, and a lot of coaches are adopting that type of procedure with their clients.
It's easy.
But that's the thing, and they don't take into consideration inflammatory responses in the body with certain types of food, especially when they're junk loading or eating junk and counting their macros on pancakes and ice cream.
Dude, it changes. It's not only changes person to person; it changes season to season, right? Like, your body changes according to sunlight. Your body changes according to light exposure. Like, so much, how much daylight. Your body changes according to so many things. And the reality is, most of these coaches are becoming zealots for if it fits your macros because it's simple, and they have these science guys backing it up. But they just want the easy route, and then they can validate it to themselves that it's okay, but it's not.
We've got a lot of coaches here talking about how stupid certain other coaches are, and claiming that they're idiots for prescribing clean meals for their clientele, thinking that they don't have to eat clean to get lean. What are your thoughts on that? That's not even one of my questions, but you just that just popped in my head.
Well, again, the word clean gets thrown under the bus. What is clean to me? Clean is whole foods, man. Like, whatever that looks like. And I think because it's such an umbrella term, it does get misused. But just stop eating things that you know are going to be inflammatory to your body. That's all clean means, right? If you're eating something that's inflammatory, it's going to disrupt the way your body works. Like that's, by definition, it's a disruptor. So, yeah, I mean, define clean, clarify the definition, and then maybe start using it again. Because I get why people get pissed off that it's one of those terms that's overused.
Yeah. Next one. Number 3, fasted cardio versus low intensity cardio versus high intensity cardio versus no cardio at all. So basically, what are your thoughts on cardio? Yeah.
Well, I think all of them is the answer. I think they're all different energy systems, right? And I think whether your objective is health or body composition, every one of those should be a part of your regimen. It shouldn't just be, hey, I'm just doing one, right? It should be, what is my nutrient status right now? What is my nutritional status, meaning my repletion versus depletion? Am I glycogen repleted right now, or am I glycogen depleted? That can determine things or direct things a different way. Am I nourished? Am I not nourished? How is my aerobic capacity? How is my anaerobic capacity? How is my ability to clear hydrogen, like lactate, what most people call it? How do those things play into your ability to move the needle forward when it comes to the way your body looks or feels, right? So if you're someone who's anti-cardio, but your aerobic capacity sucks, that's inhibiting your ability to build muscle, guess what? Then you can't build muscle. So there always needs to be a thought process behind each of them, right? And I really believe that aerobic training is necessary. Fasted absolutely works. Does it matter fasted or not? Yes, I think it does. I think it can make a difference. How about high intensity cardio? I think it absolutely has benefit. And again, no cardio makes sense for some people too. The ideal scenario is you want to do as little as possible, or as little as necessary, perhaps. But they're absolutely they should be part of every single person's routine. And for so many reasons, Mark, like walking in itself is the second most reflexive movement pattern in the body, right? Breathing being first, walking being second. And walking is so important to the development of your brain, to the development of motivation, to the development of empathy. Like so many emotions are tied in with walking, like just simply fucking bilateral movement, one foot in front of the other. It's so important to the development of a human being.
Yeah. I'm a big advocate of cardio, and I don't think I've ever been able to get lean without doing cardio. So number 4, 5 top must-have subs or vitamins.
Depends for who. I do have a list. So I've written out a document. I have a list of kind of foundational stuff that I think everyone should take, and let me think my way through that. Magnesium is at the top of the list. Methylated B vitamins is at the top of the list. Glycine or collagen is on that list. Vitamin D is on that list. Maybe essential amino acids if you are trying to build muscle. There's probably a few that I'm missing, but those 5 give you the gist of it, man.
Awesome. Number 5, carbs make you fat.
Carbs don't make you fat. Nothing makes you fat. Overeating makes you fat. We know that, right? We know overeating and undermoving makes you fat. But carbs don't make you fat. There's no question about that. I'm a big advocate of kind of cyclical approach to nutrition. So, getting your body fat adapted is very important. Making sure your body's capable of using fat at rest, it's very important. But replenishing carbohydrates or glycogen is also very important. Like if you're someone who's on a ketogenic diet and you're an anti-carbohydrate zealot, I suggest you rethink it, because carbohydrates are absolutely influential in a positive way to your physiology. So, kind of reprogramming the way your body uses insulin, allowing your body to increase nutrient uptake, improving your performance. All these things are things we know that your body does with carbohydrates. So,
awesome.
I rotate through, man. And it's either seasonal or cyclical based on training.
Yeah. Number 6, pre-contest water load and depletes.
Well, I think it's if it is done, it's done incorrectly. And the reality is, and you guys get this, is most people when they load and then deplete, they look worse. And they're always of the mentality that, oh, I screwed something up. And the reality is you didn't screw anything up. You just didn't have the muscle to begin with. So most people, when they deplete water, what usually happens is they lose intramuscular glycogen and fluid, so they feel like they're smaller, but they never had that muscle to begin with, right? There's different types of hypertrophy that happen, right? You have myofibrillar hypertrophy, you have sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, and like you have to grow the tissue, right? You have to actually build the accumulate protein in the tissue to be able to diet down, deplete your water, and actually still have muscle tissue left, right? That's where that hard, dense, grainy muscle comes from, like guys like Dorian have. It's muscle tissue that he's built there. It's not just hyperemia of cell swelling, right? It's not just a bunch of water and glycogen being held in the muscle from, insulin and growth hormone and all these other things that we know retain water.
Yeah. That was my next one, number 7, carb loading for a show.
Oh, it's absolutely part of it. But again, most people aren't doing it anywhere near correctly. So depending how depleted you get, right? I always, the best way to think about it is how much of a hole have you dug for yourself? Like if you're coming into a contest and you dug a massive trench to where like you had to get really, really depleted to get in shape, well, you're going to have to replete more. But ideally, you don't dig a big hole for yourself. Ideally, you just get yourself into small caloric deficit, do your cardio, do what you got to do, get in shape, and then the repletion phase is much less than you think. I mean, I've had shows where I loaded on 250 to 300 grams of carbs for the contest, like per day, and I've had shows where I've loaded on 15 to 1700 grams of carbs per day, and again, wasn't full. It's completely dependent on who you are and what you have to do to get into shape to begin with.
Number 8. Cheat meals versus calculated refeed days.
I don't really believe there's any place or necessity in junk food, man. Like, does it make you feel good while it's going in your mouth and you feel like shit when you're done? I just don't think it makes any sense. I don't think it's helpful at all. I think it's disrupting your gut. I think it's disrupting your inflammatory responses. I think it's disrupting your insulin sensitivity. I think it's laziness. And I get it. Like, dude, sometimes I want to eat a chocolate cake too, but don't rationalize it to yourself why it's good for you, right? It's like sometimes you want to go out and do some party drugs, but I'm not going to rationalize it to myself that it's good for me. Like I want to go out and have a good time, or I want to have whatever. I'm not going to rationalize that it's good for me.
Yeah. So people prophesizing the release of leptin with having cheat meals or anything like that, it's all
right.
It's all
just because cheesecake has some miraculous quality that makes you fucking release leptin, and where like a shitload of rice wouldn't do that for you.
We've touched on this briefly, but we're just going to quickly go over it again. GH, holy grail or waste of money? Let's look at it in the perspective of amateurs, because a lot of people are at an amateur level.
It's going to do what you think it's going to do. Yeah, I had this conversation with some guy 2 days ago, and he goes, "Oh man, I'm thinking about taking GH," and I was like, "Why? I want to put on some muscle." Okay, like how old are you, right? So if you're over 40, maybe. If you're under 40, what do you think it's going to do for you? The only benefit that I ever got from GH was physiologically, or maybe it's psychologically more appropriately, feeling full. Like the water retention in your muscles, I believe, has a performance benefit. But as far as actually accumulating muscle tissue, I don't think it does any of that, man. I've never seen any data that says it's actually building muscle tissue. Like, it's very limited, man. I would say that you're probably better off using growth hormone secretagogues, like growth hormone releasing peptides and things like that, GHRP, CJC, peptides, rather than growth hormones, because it's your body releasing its own natural hormones. So it's anatomically or physiologically going to match what your body produces. Like it's your own stuff. It's going to be identical, rather than putting in something else that could have negative side effects. And for most people, it does. Some people it works, man. There's no question. For some people it works, but I'd say 80-90% of the people it doesn't do anything.
Yeah. And last question. We've touched on this again, but we're going to let's go a general rule of thumb. Question 10. How long on versus how long off?
Again, trying to be as honest as I can. 16 weeks on and 8 weeks off would be minimum amount of time off. So I like a good 4 month, maybe a 5 month cycle. would be typical, 16 to 20 weeks. And again, it's ramping up, right? It's like progressing your way up. That's a big mistake people make when it comes to anabolics, is going from 0 to 100. They go from 0 to 500 milligrams or 0 to 1,000 milligrams. And like, dude, what happened to 2, 3, and 400? Like those are numbers too, progressing your way through any amount of progression. So, if I start at a stack, it may start with 250 milligrams for a week, and then it may go to 500, and then it may go to 600, and then it may go to 750, like literally progressing through it, because each one of those steps is an incremental opportunity for progress and growth. So, make sure, one, it's done that way. And when you come off, you stop. Like, there's no tapering down, because people do that. I think that's a big mistake, because if you're taking anything, you're shutting down your natural production. So stop, and get on PCT as soon as you can, and get your body revamping back up, because like tapering down doesn't do anything. It doesn't make any sense. So, that's my thought. And like I said, 16 to 20 weeks on, and then 8 weeks off minimum, ideally closer to 16 weeks off, if you're actually looking for your body to reset.
Yeah.
And I usually just listen to my body, man. Like, if I come off after a stack, it would just be, I wouldn't do PCT for 3 or 4 weeks. I'd let my body kind of rebound a little bit. And then I'd be like, okay, I'm starting to feel like shit. Let's do some PCT. And that makes you feel better for 4 to 6 weeks. And then you start to feel like shit again. Okay, well, I'm going to go back on. You're just kind of listening to my body. So,
yeah. Awesome. We'll wrap it up now, because we've been talking over an hour now, which is good, and we could ask questions all day long. Let's have another recap on your muscle camps. Do you have the information there on the venues and the dates for any of them?
Yeah, man. So if anyone goes to musclecamps.com, you can find all of the information there. So you've got January 11th to the 13th is in Sydney. The 18th through the 20th is in Perth, and the 25th through the 27th is in Melbourne. So Sydney is at Kingdom Gym, Perth and Melbourne are both at Doherty's. So I've developed a great relationship with Tony over the years, having come out to the show so many times out in Australia. I've got a great fan base, awesome friends over there, man. I'm so grateful to be able to come back. I miss you guys, man. I've developed some lifelong friends from Australia. I say it all the time. It's just great people. I've always had such great experiences and great encounters, and literally people that I'm still friends with to this day, are people I talk to on a weekly basis. So I'm really looking forward to coming out there. That's really why Australia was the top of our list to start, was because there's so many great lifelong friends out there.
Yeah, awesome. And we'll make sure we'll save you a 3XL Muscle Asylum shirt, because I'm sure you'll still fit into a 3XL. Unless you want
Not anymore, man. It's funny. I put on a shirt last week, and my son, who's 6, goes, "Dad, whose shirt is that?" I'm like, "Fuck you, son."
No, look, I just want to personally thank you for coming on the show. I think this is going to be a really informative episode for everyone that listens, and we've got a pretty good fan base here, so a lot of people would love to listen to this, and they'll get a lot out of it. So thanks for coming on, and I'll be at the camp in a few weeks at Sydney, so I'll definitely catch up with you then also.
I look forward to seeing you guys, man. Look forward to connecting. Jimmy, man, I appreciate all the questions.
Yeah, all what?
I was just here in case Mark got stuck, man.
Don't worry, I gave you the warning about Jimmy right from the start before Jimmy came on. He ain't going to be saying much.
And now the real questions start. As soon as the podcast ends, Jimmy's going to start asking the questions.
Yeah,
he's going to ask the real questions.
I only got told about this morning. Give me a break.
Yeah, I forgive you, man.
All right, thanks for coming on, mate. And
thanks, boys. I appreciate you, man.
We'll chat soon. Thanks, mate. Bye.